Well, hello everyone. How are you doing? Yes, I did switch up the opening music. That's not going to be permanent though. I keep getting not copyright struck, but copyright claimed, and I have to mute the music, and it's just a pain in the butt. So I'm going to be using that same everywhere music. That's for the bounce down for the beginning. But for this one, I just thought the Sing for Absolution remix, which I love. I love the original. But I just love that one, so I decided to play that. And hello, everyone. So this is this is. There's probably going to be several shows on this. I've been talking about this a bit, but decided I finally wanted to do a show on it. And actually, I forgot to share a screenshot to my regular computer that I wanted to share in this show. See, I even got prepared for this show, and I apparently didn't get prepared enough. Well, I can't find it now, so that's okay. We'll we'll just leave it at this. So, what started this? So, first of all, let me do the YouTube stuff. Here we go. As we come into the new year, I would really appreciate it if you'd become a patron of the show. You know, people do it for a while and, they fall off, they come back. I understand, but it is a slower time, and if you appreciate this content, I would really appreciate you becoming a patron. There is advanced content, and there is also patron-only content, and as a bit of, and thank you, yes, HVAC Soldier, hit the like button. That also really helps. So does commenting after the video is done. It helps boost the algorithm. But what is coming up? So we're finishing up on the book from it's something like From Mutual Aid to the Welfare State. The title's long. I always forget it. We're on the last couple chapters. We're going to be done with that next week. I am going to be starting on a chapter by chapter discussion of the case for Christian nationalism. That is not going to be patron only, but it is going to be patron advanced. And I'm probably going to do it live on Patreon, then download the video and upload it to YouTube later. And also, let me get my little logo out of the way here. You can follow me on Twitter at Karen Ann Harlos. I'd super appreciate it. Again, patreon.com/Pink Flame of Liberty. And also, super thanks always matter, as do super thanks. I was getting a bit distracted. I'm going to put HVAC's comments up here. Yeah, this is an old-fashioned shirt. It's actually going to end up going in the Goodwill bag because frickin' I got long-ass arms, man, like an ape. And I think I got this shirt, I think, at Goodwill to begin with, and I think it was a petite because, like, look, this isn't even from holding it up. Like, they're too short. So it's going back, though I like the color, but it's definitely going back. And plaids, I love plaid, and plaid's the thing in Colorado winters. Anyway, so what inspired me to do the show? There was a screenshot I wanted to share from Jake D. Porter. Now, maybe I can find it quickly, but he said something he thought was going to get me upset, but it didn't. He let me know ahead of time that he was going to say it. And, oh, I know what happened. I need to find his screenshot here. I'm sorry that this is taking a little bit. I should have saved this. And if I can't find his tweet, like, in 2 seconds, yep, I can't find it. So we're just going to talk about it. So this was after Marjorie Taylor Greene defected. She's probably their highest level defector from the MAGA cult. And yes, it is a cult. He had posted and said something that a lot of people have been saying now, not about me, but about Marjorie Taylor Greene. But Jake Porter applied it to me because I too am a defector from a much lesser level political cult, but a political cult nonetheless. MAGA is definitely a cult within the Libertarian Party, and I was a member of the Mises Caucus cult within the Libertarian Party. And make no doubt about it, it was a cult. Not to the level of MAGA, though the overlap there, considering our disgraced former chair, which we will get to, is pretty significant. And the culty elements definitely are an overlap there. But what Jake Porter said, who, if you don't know, he's the one who finally brought down dear leader McCardle. He had said, just like Marjorie Taylor Greene is giving the MAGA, he didn't word it exactly this way, but something like is giving permission to the MAGA base as a high-level defector that it's okay to leave. He said, similarly, what I did back in 2024 when I defied the Mises cult and they went after me with everything that they had, I also gave permission to the rank and file that it's okay to leave. I am by far the highest level public defector that they've had. I know of another defector that isn't particularly public about it, but and because they weren't public to begin with, and I just saw some cobwebs I need to get rid of in the studio here, I don't know if they'd count in the rank, in the internal cult rank. They may have been higher up, but as far as public Mises Caucus people go, I am really the highest level defector. And if you're still there, it's okay. You can leave. But we're going to talk about why you don't. And we're going to talk about why I didn't. And we're going to weave in Marjorie Taylor Greene. Because even though the parallels obviously do not walk on all fours, analogies aren't supposed to. They're just supposed to give you certain touchstones that you could get a hook in order to better understand a situation more fully. Now, before we get to the Marjorie Taylor Greene clips, and these are from a show, I think it's called Faith and Culture. It's a ex-Republican. I don't know if he's an ex-Republican, but he's definitely a never-Trumper pastor. And had been that way for a while. It's a very good show. I think it's Faith, Culture, and Politics is the name of the show. And again, he's a retired pastor. Before we get to these clips, need to give a little bit of background, because sometimes and understand why we got somewhere, you have to understand, before you understand where we're at, you have to understand how we got there. And the problem I see, and I try to examine myself and own this every day. But the problem I see with the anti-Mises people, and yes, this is going to be very inside baseball, in the Libertarian Party, there's two problems. A, they forget. Like you see Nikela making nice with the Mises Caucus people now, and what a big part of the problem he is. B, they don't want to own up to the mistakes they made. Now, despite what some people will say, here in Colorado, we have one of the most vicious Mises Caucus chapters, if that's what you want to call them, in Colorado. I know it's not that way in every state. I know in some states, some people might be shocked at what I'm going to say because they're actually quite friendly there. It wasn't that way here. But I'm going to use Colorado as an example, and some people from Colorado are going to be upset with me. Oh, like I'm not used to that. I don't BS anymore. The Mises Caucus, quote-unquote, takeover did not happen in Colorado in a vacuum. It happened because what they'd like to call the old guard, or less flatteringly, the loser brigade, wasn't entirely welcoming to new people. There always felt like, even when you'd been here a while, even though like I've been in the party now a decade, I don't feel like part of the old guard even now in Colorado, because there was a distinct separation, and that's not healthy. And until the people that were in power at the time the Mises Caucus took over do a lot of self-reflection as to how that was possible, we're just going to ping pong back and forth. It's going to keep happening. There go check out a video I did pre-takeover called "The LP Needs to Check Itself Before It Wrecks Itself." And that will give you some of the background as to how the Mises Caucus was able to take over. But I'd like to talk more personally because, again, personal reflection, and there's going to be some people who aren't going to like what I have to say. Oh, again, I care. No, actually, I don't. Because even though I've let things go, there's plenty of let go. I've just decided I'm not waiting around anymore for people to see the light. Change begins with me. Blah, blah, blah. I know, sappy. But my crossing over to join the Mises Caucus also didn't happen in a vacuum. And no, I'm not saying I wasn't responsible. I'm not saying it wasn't my choice. I am not saying there isn't warning signs I should have seen. All of that, yep, there are warning signs I should have seen. It was definitely my choice, but it didn't happen in a vacuum. I was in a very vulnerable place. Now, maybe I shouldn't have let myself be that, but again, there's a lot of personal responsibility I can take. That's not what the show is about. I've done a lot of shows on that. But there was funny business. I don't care how bad New Hampshire is now. There was funny business that was going on in New Hampshire. I exposed it, and people unjustly came after me. Now, was I a complete saint in that situation? No. But what they did to me in 2021 was wrong. Some people have apologized. Some people have not. Some people never will. I don't care anymore. It's in the past. But for that, and some people have some dealing with it to do, but for that event, the takeover would not have been as complete as it was in Reno. Mises needed a flashpoint. Now, there were multiple flashpoints. They needed more than one flashpoint. There were multiple of them. They still would have won, but they wouldn't have swept. I know a bunch of people that came to that convention just to support me. What they did was wrong. And I was very hurt and very vulnerable, and the Mises Caucus took me in. The way cults do, they love bomb you. And because you are so vulnerable and seeking validation and all of that, and in a bad place, blah, 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 they use that emotional dependence that you had upon them to manipulate you. That's exactly what happened. Now, am I responsible for letting myself get manipulated? Absolutely. Again, I'm going to stop giving these disclaimers. Just know that throughout the rest of this, I am not disclaiming personal responsibility. But this is how people end up in cults. They're having a bad time with their family, or they're having a hard time at work, or they're in a divorce, or they're not in a good mental state, whatever it might be. Cults find you when you are vulnerable. So that's how I ended up in. And now that I am out, I realize all the manipulation, but I didn't see it at the time. And boy, let me tell you, one of the most master of manipulators is Angela McArdle. Like, I look back and think about, why didn't I leave when all of that dump of terrible text messages came out? That, like, just looking back, that just shows you the brainwashing then. I couldn't believe it. I didn't want to believe it. I couldn't accept it, so I accepted her hollow apology rather than accepting the truth. That these were not my friends. They're hardly anyone's friends. I do think some friendships form within the caucus. But as a general, you're just a political tool. And she would call me, and I know this is all like bullshit now, but this was such manipulation. She'd call me, you know what? Oh, I think I have a fake phone here. Where's my Yeah, here we go. You know what? Of course, we're using a cell phone, but we're going to use this. The others, they're really concerned about you. Yeah, they think. And she would twist and manipulate and talk about how everyone else was a twister and a manipulator. Oh my God. But during that period of time, for what I thought they believed, I was a true believer. But it wasn't in what they actually believed, because I do think it's mask off at this point, and obviously I have very little in common with them back then. But back then, they were selling themselves as the radicals. National divorce. I mean, the most radical stuff you could think of. That's what, and now they're, anti-immigrant, pro-Trump. It's just like everyone tried to tell me it was like that from the beginning. I honestly don't see it and didn't see it. I see a change once Angela got a little taste of power, when she got that text message back in November of 2023 and didn't tell the LNC. Like, you think the embezzlement is the worst part? Well, that probably is the worst part. Maybe not, but there was all kinds of betrayals of fiduciary duty leading up to that. Things like that also don't happen in a vacuum. You don't go from zero to embezzlement. I'm sorry, that just doesn't happen. So, with Jake making the analogy between myself as a high defector, again, within a small pond, I'm not that important in the scheme of things. Within the LP, within the Mises Caucus, it was a big deal. If you don't think so, go back and read the absolutely vicious things and the unhinged thing that Angela wrote about me back when they were trying to remove me. It is batshit. And remember, she went and told the Mises Caucus board that if she doesn't get her way, she was going to have the whole JC removed. I mean, just absolutely nutty things. If you're still there, get out. You don't need the group. You can agree with them where you agree with them, but be a free agent. Let me tell you, I've been through I thought 2021 was the worst that can be thrown at me. No. What was thrown at me in 2024 was the absolute, utter worst. And I got out of it victorious. And then I left the LNC on my own terms. But you want to know who knew what was going on through all this? Is Stephen Nikela. You might wonder why sometimes I seem like I dislike him or am more opposed to him than I am McArdle. And in some ways I am. Because everyone knows what McArdle is. Steve's managed to fool some people. He allowed potentially more harassment than McArdle allowed. No, she allowed a lot, but she didn't pretend like she wasn't. I guess I prefer an open embezzlement to the kind of sneaky, sly political gamesmanship that's going on now. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I prefer an open thief to someone who has a mask on. I mean, Angela is mask off. So now let's go to this show. And if you guys have any questions, any criticisms, anything you want to yell at me at in comments, please go ahead. And also, I'm going to read your comment and probably respond to it, whether or not there's a super chat or not, but I really would appreciate support. Okay, let's go to the first clip. And I want to, and I see your comment, Michael. We're going to talk about that after this first clip. And I want to make sure that I get muted during this so you don't hear my background noise.
One of the hardest things for any of us to do is to admit when we've been fooled. And Trump has succeeded politically for so long now, I think, because too many of his supporters have just been unwilling to admit that they were taken in by someone so absurd as Donald Trump. I mean, that just feels bad when we trust somebody and we find out that they didn't deserve our trust.
Yeah, so I so resonated that. Now, again, this is going to be jumping between Trump, Marjorie Taylor Greene, myself, the Mises Caucus. But yeah, when the Angela files came out, why didn't I see right then I was wrong? Because that is so hard and it hurts. And you want to believe these people were your friends. You got so close with him. I mean, what he said just, got me right there. Let me put some comments up here. Yeah, listen, this isn't anything new. Her Messiah complex of accusing people of being demonically possessed and things like that, it's been since she hasn't been chair anymore. She did it a few times before she resigned, but she used to say things like that to me all the time in private. Like, she, there, when I say cult, political cult, there actually is a bit of a mixture with her leadership of religious cultiness, because like she makes all these religious comparisons to herself and stuff, and the way that she's like, now I want the new recruits not to get involved with the people who were there before. It is just, I mean, wake up, people, particularly those of you who are Christians or of any kind of religious tradition in which you've got your extremists. You need to see, like, open your eyes. I know mine weren't. And there's going to be something when people go, really, how did you get out? The Angela Files didn't have you get out. How did you get out? That's going to be coming up. And sorry if I'm going to pronounce this, Demonzia asked if I watch Zulu's Anatomy of the Libertarian. They are neo-prags. I didn't watch the whole thing, to be honest with you. And thank you for reminding me, because what I do is I listen to things when I'm cleaning and stuff like that. Zulu and I do not agree on everything, but we agree on a lot. And what I like about Zulu is we can agree to disagree on some things. I understand what he's doing. He's driving principle to its core application. And yes, he does criticize the Mises Caucus, and they are neo-prags, and they didn't start out that way. They used to be radical. For the DC convention, I made all of Angela's buttons, by the way. I also made all of Hannah Goodman's buttons. But I also made all those national divorce buttons. That used to be the Mises Caucus. But even then, she was lying to me, because she had already gotten that call in 2023, if I remember correctly. Yeah, 2023, she had gotten that call. And Winrich Rocky Mount says, I remember shortly after Reno, there was a Twitter post from LP National showing multiple U.S. politicians with the enemy is not abroad, but at home. Trump was not shown in that post. Yeah, but Angela used to be critical of Trump until that one point in time. And she lied to us about how he ended up at convention. And yeah, maybe I should have seen it at that time, but I was already in. I was already like, they had me in, and I was loyal. I mean, some of you guys will remember I was loyal. I was so loyal to Angela. It's not even funny, because I'm a loyal friend. Anyone who's currently friends with me now knows that how loyal I am, and that can be a virtue, but it certainly also can be a vice. HVAC Soldier says, a call from Trump. She does several shows on this. No, it was from somebody not officially working with the Trump campaign, but working with the Trump campaign. I can't remember the name. Maybe Jake or someone will come into chat and say, but that guy either that day or the next day got Trump on the phone with her. So this is about October of 2023. She visited Mar-a-Lago in November of 2023 as chair of the LP, and never disclosed this to the LP, to the LNC. The breaches of fiduciary duty started then. Some people would say earlier. Maybe I'm being silly. I don't believe that. I just think the loss in donors and stuff like that is just because she wasn't good at that. Not being good at being chair and being good at fundraising or good at other things, that's not a breach of fiduciary duty. You just aren't good at it. The breaches started then. Yeah, I get this. Look, I lost so many friends in Colorado. I lost so many friends in the National Party. I've been spending the year and a half trying to rebuild bridges. Some people don't want to. That's okay. And here's also the thing about cults and about being wrong about things. If you're in a period of time where you're wrong about something, you're not wrong about everything. So there are people now who are mad at me at some things from that time. And they're like, you got to apologize for this. I go, I'm not going to, because I don't think that particular thing was wrong. Not everything that happened during that period of time was wrong. And if you ever get an apology from me, it's because I mean it. I do not apologize for things I'm not sorry for. And there are things that some people are still mad at me for. I'm like, yeah, I'm not sorry for that. That was correct. I'm genuine also, loyal and genuine. And when I was defending the Mises Caucus, I genuinely believed it. I just don't anymore. Here's what's funny. I want to show you how in I was. Some people want to go, oh, you weren't that important to them. Okay, let's talk about Reno. They had that big Dave Smith was talking. Maj Toure was talking. They gave out awards. Hold on. Let them say I wasn't that important. I got their highest award in Reno. I got the 2022 Take Human Action Reward from the Mises Caucus. Don't let them gaslight you that I wasn't important. I knew that would have to come out one day for something. That's why I didn't throw it in the trash yet. Okay, next clip.
In a very big way that I think just hasn't been emphasized enough, Green admitted that she was fooled by Trump.
Get that off there. Yeah, I was fooled by the Mises Caucus. But you want to know something? There was someone who was actually pretty honest with me. But I heard what I wanted to hear. And some of you aren't going to like that I'm going to say this. But Heiss never lied to me. Heiss pretty much made it clear that I was disposable and I was useful. And he pretty much made it clear to me that even though he supported me, he also told me flat out, even if he didn't personally support me, he would have supported me because it would have been suicidal for the Mises Caucus not to support me. I'll give him that. Heiss never lied to me. I should have heard at that point, we're going to use you. But I didn't because I was hurt. Because the 2021 LNC and people who were my really good friends, and I've let it go. I'm free friends with these people again. Some have apologized, some haven't. They stabbed me in the back. I was a wounded animal backed into a corner. But Heiss never lied to me. Angela lied. She lied like a rug, but Heiss didn't. And yeah, so I'm gonna put this here and thank you. Put this up on. Thank you so much. As you know, Reno meant a lot to me, but there was quite a bit. There was certainly election margins of, I don't want to say error, but margins of win of people I know that came there for me. Okay, so yeah, I was fooled by the original vision. Heiss, though, never lied to me. I heard what I wanted to hear. I self-fooled myself there. And then when, they all got behind Angela, I definitely was fooled by her because she, unlike Heiss, whatever you think of Heiss, he wasn't a liar.
Many common Americans are no longer easily convinced by paid political propaganda spokespersons and consultants on TV and paid shills on social media obediently serving with cult-like conviction to force others to swallow the political party talking points.
So right there, good for her for using the word cult. I usually shy away from using that word because, unless I'm in a bad mood, because people tend to close their ears when I use that word. But of all the people in the world, I think she has the right to call it a cult because she's talking about her movement.
And I have the right to call the Mises Caucus a cult because I am talking about a movement that was mine. And she's right. Like, I don't agree with Marjorie Taylor Greene. She still believes in things I don't believe in. but I do recognize a certain kindred spirit. Doesn't mean we have to agree, but I do resonate with something, and I do resonate with her pain. She is feeling super, super betrayed. And I've been there, but she's right. It was a cult. And to the smaller pond extent, so is the Mises Caucus, and it's okay to leave. Let me, and I'm going to name names, like, because none of this is secret, and if someone wants to get mad at me naming names, that's okay. Just because someone left the cult doesn't mean they're necessarily good. Some of them left the cult because they weren't getting enough culty power, or Angela finally did something to stab them in the back. But like Adrian Maligan, he left the cult. That doesn't make him right or a good person. And then you had Meredith Hayes. She left the cult. She shouldn't be on the LNC, but she is. But yet someone else who bucked the cult the way I did when I turned in the nomination paperwork for Chase Oliver, and that's the chair of Florida, Matt Johnson. He was the Mises Caucus Florida organizer. You want to know what his high crimes and misdemeanors were? He dared to sign a JC appeal of George Phillies over the obvious railroading charges against me. He never spoke out in my favor. He didn't do really, I mean, we were friendly. I thought he was a decent guy, but all he did was sign a petition, and Meredith Hayes went after him in the Mises Caucus Discord channel and got him removed as state organizer. So he's another high-level defector, and he's a great guy. But this is who these people are. I don't think she's ever apologized for that. She hasn't apologized for anything that I know of. Anyway. Next one.
And if you listen to her whole talk, she makes it clear that she was a true believer. And she says that Trump is casting her aside because of a few disagreements. She still believes all of this stuff, but she disagreed with him on a few things. And so she's been cast into the outer darkness. And
okay. I don't believe so the differences start to become apparent here. I'm not a true believer in what Mises says now, but I certainly was when it started. And I didn't realize the change that had happened in late 2023. But here's where I want to give something that some people are going to find very difficult to hear. And it's not particularly flattering to me. It's just human nature, but it's not particularly flattering. We have some people who think they can nice people out of the Mises cult. Perhaps there's a few people you can nice out of it. If you're just welcoming and friendly to them, they'll come around and they won't be trying to throw you out and sell out the party and, support a chair of their caucus that embezzled from the National Party. Maybe there's a few of them, but in general, this is a cult. You can't nice them out of it. I wasn't niced out of it. Plenty of people were nice to me, but I wasn't going to betray my cult family. What got me out is they knifed me in the back. I had a higher priority than wanting to be accepted in the group, and that was my sense of duty and honor. Because when I turned in that nomination paperwork, I wasn't even a supporter at the time of Chase Oliver. That's not why I did it. That's the story they'll tell you now. I voted NOTA at convention. Now, I became a Chase Oliver supporter, but at the time I was not. That is not why I turned it in. I didn't turn it in because I was mad at Angela. She and I, as far as I were concerned, were nearly best friends, as was I and Hannah Goodman. That was painful. I lost my entire friend circle by doing this. But my sense of duty and honor were higher. And then when I was just completely knifed over that, that's how I got out. I never would have been niced out because they already had the emotional hooks in me. Now, maybe I would have matured to the point where those hooks weren't quite so deeply embedded. You want to know one thing that would have gotten me out sooner because they wouldn't have had the emotional hooks is if the people who did me wrong in 2021 had apologized. If they had apologized like a year later, Mises would have had no hold on me. But they find wounded people and they use them. Angela does that constantly. So I wasn't going to be knifed out. I had to be knifed out. So unless the Mises cultist in your life is showing some serious doubts or some way that they're getting out, you are not going to nice them out. And I'm sorry, that means no, you don't let them in positions of leadership or any kind of control in your state party. You just don't. Not until they're out of the cult. There are Mises people here in Colorado that I'm very fond of, but I don't support them for anything until they get out of the cult. And I haven't seen signs yet at a very fundamental level that they're getting out. And I get it. I wasn't going to be niced out either. And again, that's not particularly flattering to me, but it's the truth. Okay, next one.
I have too much self-respect and dignity. I love my family way too much, and I do not want my sweet district to have to endure a hurtful and hateful primary against me by the president that we all fought for, only to fight and win my election while Republicans will likely lose the midterms, and in turn be expected to defend the president against impeachment after he hatefully dumped tens of millions of dollars against me and tried to destroy me. It's all so absurd and completely unserious. I refuse to be a battered wife, hoping it all goes away and gets better.
Okay, again, obviously different perspectives and points of view, but two things resonated. Why did I resign the LNC? Because I had too much self-respect and I was not going to be the battered wife anymore. Those two things she said, I'm like, oh, I feel you. I left because I had too much self-respect to stay. Nikayla was letting the abuse go on. And whether people claimed they were in it or out of it, no. The toxic tank of unfed sharks, I had too much self-respect to put myself through that, and I left on my own terms. I was not going to be their battered wife anymore. And there's still quite a sharpness there. And you all could probably still hear, there's still quite a bit of bitterness there. Like I said on a third-party watch post, and he could be mad. As you can tell right now, I don't really care who's mad at me. Where Evan was announcing his chair run, and he's like, oh, blah, 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 blah. And he had the best post, to be honest with you. And on that interview show with David Fite, he probably gave the best interview. Evan's been in the party a long time. But Evan said, and I'm not endorsing or not endorsing anyone. Actually, I'll say this. Anyone who supports Stephen Nikayla for anything, I will campaign against them. I don't care who it is. I'm not supporting anyone who supports this man who allowed rank harassment and sexually inappropriate comments to be made to members and would do nothing about it and is doing absolutely nothing about New Hampshire. Oh, he's so helpless. Yeah, no. But other than that, I kind of staying out of it. But Evan in his third-party watch post said, and I became national secretary after an unexpected vacancy. I'm like, unexpected vacancy is a real nice way to put that the former secretary was harassed out and you guys have done absolutely nothing to cure that toxic atmosphere. It's going to take an awful lot if I'm at convention for me to vote for anyone who is on this current LNC. Just being honest. I'm not saying never, except for Nikayla's never. But I'm saying you got to do more than you're doing now. Because this circling the wagons and refusing to call each other out, that's all the culty shit that Mises does. You don't even have to be a Mises to do that. Like the LP itself, because it's a minor party, it's a bit culty in its own way, but it doesn't have to be. But this, the LNC as an in group, let me tell you, the one person who doesn't do that, and I don't know if he is running for anything outside of regional, is Keith Thompson. Now, I'd vote for Keith Thompson for anything. He's the one that will buck the trend. But the rest of them, even the ones I like, circle the wagons. Not today, Satan. Nope, Mama doesn't do that shit anymore. Okay, next.
Now, I've got to say that line about having too much self-respect and dignity to go along with Trump and his people, that warmed my heart.
Yeah, I resonated with it. I resonated with it. That's why I resigned. Wayne will tell you before I sent that email, I told him, I'm done. I'm done. I don't need this anymore. And I can tell you, I would love to serve on the LNC in the future. I can't see it happening anytime soon because I am loving my freedom and I'm loving, again, being out of that tank of unfed sharks. And anyone who was at the Colorado convention will know a dear friend. And I felt bad because he meant to honor me, but I had such a visceral reaction. I got nominated for LPCO secretary. And like before I could even think out of my mouth was no. And then like I stepped back and was like, oh my God, somebody just tried to give me a compliment by nominating me. And I don't want to put them on the spot, but I turned around and said, thank you so much. I realize it's an honor, but no, I declined the nomination. Yeah. Yeah. Not. Yep. Okay. I'm having flashbacks. Next.
For a time, it helped them to seal their grip on power. But she's not one of them, and she never will be. And I think she finally gets it. So she said, I refuse to be a battered wife, hoping it all goes away and gets better. And when I heard her say that, as much as I still disagree with everything that she stands for, when I heard her say that, that's when I started to get a little emotional because I can tell that statement came from her experience of knowing women like that.
Yes. And here's the thing that I've come to realize. While there was, I used to joke when I had first joined the Mises Caucus, because I knew I was already more, I don't like to use the word liberal, because I mean, we're all classical liberals if we're libertarians, but when it came to the left-right spectrum, even though I don't think that's very valid, if we were going to take that spectrum, because they were so right libertarian, me being, if I had to place myself on the spectrum, center, slightly left, I was their token, even centrist. But I realize now, like, I might have agreed on some points because I'm a radical, and they were radical at the time, that I confused that for agreement. But I'm not one of them, and I never was. And Heist tried to tell me that I was just useful, and I wouldn't listen to him again. In that respect, I have a lot of respect for Heist because he never did lie to me. Angela, oh my God, let me tell you something. Angela in 2024, because she thought she had me wrapped around her finger. She didn't realize that I truly was ungovernable when it comes to basic principles. Chase won the convention. Like, let me tell you, if we were back on July 8th, knowing everything that I know, I'd turn in those nomination paperwork again in a heartbeat. And I don't care, I'd do it again because it was the right thing to do. But Angela so thought she had me wrapped around her finger. And no wonder. I mean, I ignored the Angela files. She was Now, if Mimi, if you're watching this, you don't know. She was terrified I was going to lose to you at convention. And in fact, because it took 2 rounds and we saw the votes coming in from the tellers, I whispered to her, and it wasn't going to break my heart. I'm like, Angela, this is going to be close. I think Mimi might have it. She like was about to bust into tears. And when I won, she was teared up and hugging me, and she was so grateful because she thought I was loyal to her. No, I'm loyal ultimately to Liberty. I lost my way for a little while. But yeah, she was terrified Mimi was going to win. That was something. I told Wayne that story right afterwards because she and I, again, we were still friends until July. Wayne will tell you I told him that story.
She discovered it on her own, by her own experience. And if she can discover it, if she can build a permission structure for others to admit the truth.
Same thing. Sorry for these short clips, but I picked out the pieces that I thought applied to me. Yeah, I had to discover it on my own. And again, Marjorie Taylor Greene wasn't niced out either. So I'm going to give the parallels, even though there's a lot of differences. She did what she thought was right when it came to the Epstein thing. That was something to her that was more important than the cult loyalty. Just like me doing my duty as national secretary, it was more important to me than the cult loyalty. She did the right thing and got knifed. I did the right thing and got knifed. And that's how we found our way out. Some of you, you don't need to be knifed, please. Be it the MAGA cult or be it the Mises Caucus cult. Find your way out. I have one more clip and we'll see if there's any other questions. Otherwise, I'll be taking off after this part.
There is no plan to save the world or a 4D chess game being played.
And let me tell you, Angela does not know what she's doing. She talks a good game, but ultimately, she's just a talker, and she got used. She just hasn't seen it yet. Where is that job? Where is that job? And all her alleged friends knifed her in the back. Now, do I cry any tears for Angela getting knifed in the back? No, but I do feel a bit of empathy because I'm not a monster. But she got knifed in the back by her so-called friends because, again, there's no loyalty amongst these people. Really, they just use you. And I'm glad I am out. And thank you, Narcissistic. I mean, I've tried to keep my principles, but at some point, push did come to shove, and I chose principles with no gain at all. I can't even describe that situation to people who weren't there. I'm going to go back to this opening one because I don't want Marjorie on the screen with me the whole time. Because I had burned so many bridges in Colorado, I didn't have any support here in Colorado. I filed that suit, and I still get a little bitter about that with the anti-Mises people here who are, so upset. I'm like, where were you when I was the one who filed suit? Here's the fact. I did some things that plenty of other people could have did, but they didn't. Where were they? So while I'll completely own up to mistakes, I still got to go, I have more balls than most of you. And that's just a fact. And I have to go back to what D.L. Cummings had said. And D.L. Cummings has been a long time a supporter of mine, where he's like, yeah, she can be rough around the edges. She can have sharp elbows. But you want to know what? If you want the person who's going to stand up for principles in the face of everyone, because I don't care who's on my side, you're going to have someone who's going to be a bit of a honey badger. That's you can't have one without the other. They come together as a package. Okay, so now we've got a couple questions. That is Bunchy. You have to really go way back in internet lore, but just look up Bunchy the Green Llama. Do I have the Bunchy sound effect? Let's see. I think I do. Where is Bunchy? That's what Bunchy sounds like. So you see what Bunchy looks like, and that grin. I just let's see if we can make Bunchy a little bigger here. Look at that grin. He's just so happy. Okay. Yeah, that's Bunchy's been my friend for a real long time. Bunchy goes way back to way before I was a libertarian. Okay, and I see Donnie's here. My dog Lucy, who's down here, she's got a bit of that kind of grin now too, now that I think about it. So I'm giving you all a few minutes to see if there are any more questions, anything y'all want to say about Mises, anything you want to yell at me about with Mises, that's fine. And yeah, it's a sound recording of me getting out of bed in the morning as well. And while waiting to see if there are, you get to see my interesting studio setup. Yes, Donnie, I do have a rooster, if you didn't notice. Don't ask me why. Oh, that was at King Supers, and I just had to get it. All right, everyone. Soon I want to get a camera from back here because this view is even more interesting. I think I've got kind of a strange video coming up next to give you a preview. And of course, we'll probably be talking, you see me at my tracker ball, we'll probably be talking about this a bit more in the future. And thank you, Narcissistic. There's something I'm deeply concerned about in libertarianism. And I'm not the type to shy away from what negative implications of what we believe, or what could potentially be negative implications of what we believe. Because I firmly believe that libertarian dystopia is possible. And I've been doing a lot in Christian nationalism. Again, we're going to be going through the book, The Case for Christian Nationalism. But what I think we need to face head on is there are some things that at least some of us as libertarians believe that actually do overlap, not in the things that are necessary, like not in the core things, but there are certain intersections that we have with this group of extremists in an entirely different way, because libertarianism is an extreme philosophy, but in an entirely different way. There's a reason why so many of these Christian nationalist types used to be libertarians, or why some of these people, like these terrible identitarian beliefs, they put themselves in the category of post-libertarian. And we need to be super, super cautious of that. And I think we need to face it head on. For instance, everyone knows, don't get shocked, I'm not a huge fan of democracy. Do I think it's probably the best system we have right now in the world that we have right now? Yes, of course. But I also don't think 50 people should be able to vote to oppress 49 people. Well, you talk to a Christian nationalist, they're not a fan of democracy, but it's for an entirely different reason. It's not because they want each person to be as actualized as possible and exercise autonomy. It's because they want a theocrat. They want a Christian prince. So there's different reasons, but we need to recognize this commonality so that we can distinguish our reasons. It's just like I had said before. We may agree on paper. There was this group of like very Christian, very intolerant people in the South when gay marriage first it became the law of the land, who wanted to do away with marriage licenses. Great. Libertarians also want to do away with marriage licenses. But why did they want to? They wanted to because they were like, well, if gay people get to get married, then no one can have it. And so it came from an entirely different impulse. So while we might recognize that the normies out there might see, oh, this person's not a fan of democracy, this Christian nationalist is not a fan of democracy, they must share the same reasonings. And we don't. We've got to be so careful of that. So that's something I'm going to start to explore, I think, in my next show. Okay, everyone, I hope you have an awesome night, and I'll see you soon. Going over here to try to find my ending screen. Bye-bye.
You gotta take what you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's safe in the business, not because they want to